Thank you, Chairman. I wanted to ask, so Administrator Riley and Mr. Owen wanted to address this issue of enforcement and interdiction. So General Kelly in Southcom, I've talked to him a lot about this, and he basically said that we in Southcom see the drugs being trafficked across. We don't have enough resources to assist, and as I understand it, it's a cooperative effort, all the agencies involved. And so I wanted to ask you both, as we look at this issue of the increase both in heroin and methamphetamine coming over the border, do we need to devote more to interdiction? I mean, where are we on this? Is there more that we need to do? And how are we working on this together collectively between DOD, Border Control, and DEA, and any others who would assist on the local end?
Well, first of all, we do work with all of those entities. And again, it goes back, and I think this is really the emerging theme, at least for me. Timely information is crucial. With limited resources, with limited vessels to intercept on the high seas, we really have to perfect our ability to put assets in the right place at the right time. And one of the things we're obviously doing is joint task forces everywhere, but also making sure that our investigations domestically and internationally that develop information have a conduit to make sure that information is deconflicted. And then working along with our foreign counterparts, where many of the drugs come from, using their abilities and their naval capabilities to work jointly with us.
Can you speak to this also, this issue as I raised fentanyl? It's synthetic. Can you explain what the impact is of fentanyl and what more we need to do to this? And also, as I understand it, it impacts the East Coast even greater because it's more likely to be mixed with white heroin. And what more do we need to do to get at fentanyl? Because a lot of the folks I talk to in the treatment area say that it's actually fentanyl that's killing more people when it's combined with heroin than just heroin alone.
Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, many times when we initiate an investigation targeting fentanyl, we do that because of overdoses. I do believe Sinaloa is the primary producer clandestinely of fentanyl that we're seeing. Unfortunately for you, ma'am, we're seeing it tremendously impacting the East Coast. One of the things that we've done since the last time I had the pleasure of meeting you is we've stepped up our strike force there in Manchester with additional resources. We're currently going to add a full-time prosecutor, which is really important.
So you are going to add for the OCDF, so we can implement the OCDF model?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
I've previously written on that, so I'm really happy to hear about that.
We looked at the region and we understood there that fentanyl is a very, very unique issue causing tremendous problems. Many times the people that traffic in what they perceive to be heroin is actually fentanyl. They don't know that, and certainly the users don't know it. So its strength is really what causes the overdoses. Education is also crucial on this, ma'am, but our ability to work the cases back to the border with our Mexican counterparts and move on the clandestine labs that's producing it, I think is really the cornerstone.
Well, let me just say, I'm really pleased that you're going to follow up on the OCDF model that we talked about when you were both in Manchester. And Director Botticelli, I'd like to have you comment on this discussion, but also could you add, as we think about the demand side, what's your view on, for example, the legislation that in the certainly Senator Whitehouse and I and others are leading called CARA in terms of addressing the demand side?
Sure. So a couple points. Just to go back to your previous point about interdiction, I actually had the opportunity to talk to General Kelly last night.
Oh, very good.
He is in town for one of our periodic meetings. It's called the Interdiction Committee. So these are the senior representatives of all the interagencies who are doing work around interdiction, because I do agree that we need to really focus on additional interdiction. And the charge I gave them last night was to focus on heroin, methamphetamine, and new psychoactive substances, and to also keep our eye on cocaine, because we've made some progress. We don't want to do this. I think to your point and to the other members' points that we have to deal with this holistically, and reducing our demand is tremendously important in our work. We can't expect cooperation from our partner nations if we can't show a demonstrated commitment to dealing with demand. I think on the very positive side, this has been an incredibly bipartisan effort to look at not only enhanced funding for increasing our demand reduction strategies, prevention, intervention, treatment, but we also know that we need to continue to focus on all of the elements that are incorporated in the CARA bill, reducing overdoses, giving our law enforcement the tools to reverse overdoses, promoting recovery because we know we want to give people hope, increasing our capacity to treatment. So this has to be a holistic response to dealing with drug use in the United States, not only reducing supply, but reducing demand in the United States. So and I also say I want to appreciate the efforts of Congress. The Senate passed. The House just passed last night, the Protecting Our Infants Act.
Yes, we're really pleased with that.
We're really happy about that because it's focusing on additional areas to deal with the tremendous increase in women who are giving birth to babies who have neonatal abstinence syndrome as a result of their opioid. So I think that it's a really good example of how we can work with Congress to really pass really good bipartisan legislation.
Thank you.
Senator